Hi, guys.
Oh, you caught me mid fixing my hair.
He
I
wasn't
was
happy
looking,
with the.
I'm looking a little.
We
I
need
got
some.
some.
We
I
need
got some
haircuts.
wings. I got some
We need to
wings.
find a place to get a
We do
haircut.
need some haircuts. So here we are in the middle of beautiful Costa Rica. We're hanging out at our favorite local sort of
Community
community
spot
spot,
slash now our work
a bit of
co-working
our
space,
workspace. Yeah,
evolving community center.
yeah, it's spectacular. There's a geodesic dome right there, if you can imagine. But yeah, we braved the huelga, the strike currently happening in Costa Rica. We got through. We got all our food. We got everything ready. We're good to go.
We're ready.
We're
And
ready.
we're here to talk about burning the boats on your old life, on the structures in your life often one key structure that does not serve your calling. And Stephen wrote in the notes, this is often the biggest hurdle to exiting the matrix, I think, because we didn't talk about this before, but I think because usually there's something you're holding on to in your life, whether it's a job, it's often a job, a relationship, or more than one relationship, around families or certain communities, or your living situation, the place you live, whatever. There's like a lot of things. It's usually something you're holding on to that won't let you fully change, fully follow your calling, or fully let go of those limiting beliefs that are making you hold on to that thing, which is usually around like some need for validation, money, fears, often those two things.
Yeah, the notion of burn the boats comes from the great. I think it comes all the way from like ancient Greece when, and I can't remember the
There's a lot of like parables associated
parable.
with
I
this,
can't
I think,
remember
but
the
wartime
captain, but they
parallels.
they arrived at the shores of the enemy, and everyone was ready to go. And and in the face of the enemy, he told his men, "Burn the boats. We're not going
We're
back.
not going back.
There's no going back." And that's basically what this is. It's an action that makes you living your calling irrevocable. It has to happen. You're gonna do it by virtue of taking this big step. And most of in this, I could speak from experience, most of the times in the past when my big efforts to change and transform and really go for it in life fell short was because whenever this big thing arose in front of me, and in my case, it was often quitting a job, like stop doing the thing that I hate to do, stop going to this job that I don't like to do, find something else to do, create something else to do, generate another way to not only be supported but to be of service, all these things. I wouldn't do it. I would stop short. I wouldn't do it. And it just that's largely why many of these efforts to transform your life never really take hold, is because when people will get to this point where it's time to actually do the big thing that's scary, and they don't do it, and they opt out, or they kind of soften, or they kind of buy into a lot of the spiritual fluff that's out there, which, some of it's true, some of it isn't true. When it comes to this juncture, you've got to take that step. And one thing we like doing with people is kind of designing ways to burn the boats that don't kind of overtax your system, but that also activate it and make it happen. So sometimes it means, like, if there's a job you don't like, instead of giving like a month's notice, like give 6 months notice, but give the notice, like make it official. And when you do that, something begins to change. Some new creation begins to be born and generate in your experience. We've seen this happen time and time again. So we have some experiences with this, which are really fun to share. Our own
Yeah.
experiences burning the boats, because it's intense. It's a lot of fun, and it's made all the difference for us.
Yeah, and I mean, I often think of it as like there's like a channel between you and your higher self, you and you and God, you and your source of creation, you and your like creative impulses, that is like totally clogged by this other stuff, and it just won't flow until you let go of this thing. So for me, this idea of irrevocable action is something that Stephen and I have talked a lot about, because my experience with this within the job context, I think I was thinking as you were talking, I've had it in the relationship context as well, like holding on to like a very set relationship dynamic for way too long that was not serving me. But in the job context, like this idea of irrevocable action is really important, because I quit jobs and went back or recreated the exact same job in different clothing, like 2 times that I can think about that are really were efforts to like kind of make a big change and then like went right back. And this is why this irrevocable action thing is so important, because I remember like when I quit this one job that was like, I thought was like the job. I was leaving, we went and traveled the world. And then I came back and created a consulting career that like basically like morphed itself, ended up morphing itself back into the exact same, almost exact same kind of job. And the clothing of it looked different. You know, the structures of it looked a little different. I was in a different state. I was working from home, etc. So I had sort of made it a little bit better, but like it was still like when I came down to my calling, when I came down to like, no, I am going to help people awaken. I want to work for the awakening of humanity. I want to work for people knowing their true full power and freedom. When it came to that, that was the thing in the way again, you know? And so what's important is that like when you burn the boats, like you have to really leave it behind, you know? Like I basically like went back to the same career and recreated the same thing. And the reason I did, this is one of the most powerful examples I've had, and I've had in the relationship context too, for sure. Most of the powerful examples I had of you create your reality based on your beliefs. Because I remember like I was also trying to create a website around plant-based eating at the time, or like trying to create something else. But like I ended up taking so many consulting jobs and in this field, and I kept saying to Stephen, why am I doing this? And he was like, this is what you believe will make you money. This is what you believe you have to do to make money and to be a valid person, basically. Like those were the two things really like driving this. And the exact same, it couldn't have been more powerful example that like my beliefs were putting this into the world, this recreation. So when a year ago, when I left that, you know, when I left that job, we really like went for it with Ownstream. You know, we changed, you know, we still had a mortgage then. And like a big part of it was like me going back on needing to like pay that mortgage, you know? And so like, we just changed the structure of our life completely. Like we really burned the boats on like the whole life structure. It was like leaving the job. And I thought about I could feel the strings. Like I was holding on to some consulting jobs still. I was like, no, it's all got to go, or I'm never going to do this. Like I'm never going to fully give myself in full trust and power and resources and time, like all of my energy on my calling. And so we left that. I left the job and like left the career and left the, you know, and planted my feet in the sand of like a new career and a new career, a new passion project, a new, you know, Ownstream and what we were doing. And then we sold our house, so we just wouldn't have that immediate financial fear. Because if you really have like solved all your money issues, I wouldn't say I've solved all my money issues, but my belief that the world, the universe takes care of me is so much stronger than it used to be, that we just cut it. We cut our ties to our house. We sold a bunch of our stuff so that we would at least have that immediate, and you know, lots of financial options. You know, financial fears are a thing, and we'll get into some of that later. But, you know, to burn the boats, you got to just cut ties on everything so you can be free to fully move forward.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm just remembering that time when you were talking, like, so we had our daughter, Sophia, the love of our life. She was like 6 months, a year, somewhere between 6 months and a year old. And Teresa would be in the bedroom working this job she's describing, this career, freelance career in the legal field, mainly back in New York City. And there'd be a nanny in the house like 10 feet away. Sorry, we lost you there. But wouldn't do it because she had this working job, and it was just crazy. And it was amazing because the contrast was right there. It was like the higher self.
The perfect creation.
It literally made it so intense that it burned off the resistance to like staying safe. And that's happened for me a lot too. For me, when we made the most recent jump, we moved into the Sprinter van, we traveled the West Coast, and which was epic and wonderful. And it's led to all these other things that have created since then, which we could not have forecast at that time. And that's really part of it, is like trusting that more will be revealed, the path will be shown, the journey will, you know, open up from there, which it always has for us. But for me, it was the selling the condo. And the extra wrinkle for me that really made the contrast super intense was that my mother moved to California to be with us 6 months before we left, basically 8 months before we left. Short amount of time. She'd come out there to be with us, and yes, we had told her that our ties there were tenuous. We didn't know what would happen, but when it came down to it, when we both kind of looked at each other and said, we've got to change this. This doesn't work. Like we had connected with our calling. We had kind of revisioned our life. We had seen what it could become, which we're experiencing now here in Costa Rica largely. But for me, it was like, we got to get out of this condo. Like, I've never been a condo guy, basically. I'm just not a condo guy. It was, they're very sterile. Sterile is not a good word, but they're just sort of uniform. They're all the same. There's no individuation. There's not a lot of originality. And it was great. It was a great home. Don't get me wrong. And if you live in a condo and you love your condo, don't take offense, because it just didn't work for me. It just didn't work for me. And for me, it was like, we got to get out of this condo. Like, this doesn't work. We had all this money sunk into it. And basically Teresa was like killing herself to make all this money so we could pay for this condo. So she couldn't spend time with the baby. So we couldn't go to the beach. Mm-hmm. We lived 5 minutes from the Pacific Ocean. It was just crazy. So all this contrast was there. And then higher self says, we're going to take it up a notch, and we're going to bring your mom out here. Because for me, there was a lot of kind of feeling of responsibility about parents and things that had to just burn off too. And we love our parents. We love our mothers. I mean, this is not about that, but it's just about kind of claiming your path, claiming your individuation, and devoting yourself to that, knowing that other people are taken care of by forces beyond our kind of visual spectrum, if you will, and that we were called forward to move in this way and to travel and to give our life to this adventure of living true to our calling, living true to our God, if you will, living true to our theme, like what is wanting to be expressed through us, and just really giving ourselves to that. And so we did it. We jumped. We sold the place. We told our parents, listen, we're leaving. We don't know what our deal is. We don't know where we're going to go. And pretty much they were okay with it. They understood it. They were very loving. Teresa quit her job, and we hit the road. And it's just been expansive and opening ever since. And our moment-to-moment awareness and devotion to our calling has only grown ever since. And the thing I want to say is that, and when we talk about this within the concert of a coaching a platform, there's this notion of the vanishing point. So if you can kind of maybe imagine yourself on the ocean, looking out across the ocean, all you can see as far as you can see, but you can't see further than that. You can't see further than that.
Yep.
But if you were to move 100 yards forward, your vanishing point would move 100 yards forward. And so that's sort of how it goes with giving yourself to the life of real adventure, of really kind of, and adventure is whatever it means to you. This doesn't mean you got to start climbing mountains and paragliding or doing anything like that unless you want to, but it's really about adventure is giving yourself to your calling, like living true to that, coming from that place over and over and over again, knowing that as you move forward, your vanishing point will shift, things will always become clear, the journey will always evolve, there is always support. In fact, like the closer we get to living more and more true to our calling moment to moment, there's more magic, there's more support, there's more there's just everything is kind of reflecting back the truth that we own inside. And we've always been taken care of, in fact, provided for more than we would ever need. The abundance is flowing to us more and more kind of constantly by virtue of our commitment to our calling. So when we're about to launch a program, Exit the Matrix, where we kind of lead people through this, one thing that was really helpful in our case was we kind of burned the boats simultaneous. I think each of us had episodes of kind of burning the boats in a kind of hybrid way in the past, but this case we both kind of did it together. For me, it was selling the apartment, telling my mother like we're not staying here, and for Teresa it was like giving up the job, and we leapt together. There's really something to be said for doing this in unison with other people. It's kind of like you see those movies where people kind of jump off, the cliff into the water, like they're all doing it together. And there's something to be said for that. Like, let's make it fun. Let's make it epic. Let's support each other. Let's build a community around people who want to give their lives to their calling. So this program, Exit the Matrix, which is coming out next week, we think, comes out, I think we're going to open it at least next Friday. But it's really a way to kind of bring people together to all support each other and do this together, do this in unison, and cheer each other on. Like there's nothing like that. It's really, it's not to be missed. Like, one of the beauties is right now is there's so much contrast in the world. People are actually in so much pain because their life is so far from their calling. Imagine getting like 20 to 30 of those people together in the same kind of structure and saying, let's go for it. Like, the amount of energy and magic to be released by that is like kinetic. You can just feel it. It's so wonderful. So we're super excited to do that. That's coming in a few days. We'll talk more about that too on a few videos upcoming. But anyway, burning the boats, it's really great to do it with a community of people. It's more possible. You see bravery and courage in others and know you have that in yourself too.
Yeah, and so many things came up for me while you were sharing, and a couple things like about the group. You know, I think we've said this in other contexts, but like the forces of the matrix are very powerful and loud, and they have like ingrained themselves in your brain, right?
Yeah.
So it's like to get out of that, to pull yourself out of that, because there's a totally different life in front of you if you just believe in it, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing is that like we are so conditioned to believe that life is this linear thing and that like you have to be secure. This idea of certainty and security is what I was thinking of while you were sharing. And if you're in a group of people who have the belief in themselves, who are following their calling, who are unearthing the truth of their lives together, you can see your own, you can share your own craziness and fear and see, one, it is a disease, it is conditioned, it is not real, it is not you, it's not the truth, and help each other step past that. And the momentum and the truth that can be built from that and the experience that you're sharing, that is often needed to like get you over the hurdle of like burning the boats and like starting a new life, because just the pull of that old way is like, and the beliefs are so conditioned that that's why I recreated the jobs over and over again, because it was in my mind, you know? So getting each other out of that, helping you get over that hump. But this idea of certainty, you know, I was thinking about Anurag Gupta, you know, who basically like is just, along with Bentino Massaro, like really helped me follow my calling and us to burn the boats originally. And this idea that like we have these conditioned ideas of certainty and security, and this is why we often sit in jobs for years and years and years that make us miserable, or relationships or homes that we're paying mortgages for. Is this idea that we're going to be safe if we do this. And it's amazing the amounting evidence, even in the matrix, that is just not true, with like storms wiping away your homes or like mass layoffs or whatever.
Fired.
It's just like, it's just a conditioned story, you know? And what Anurag says, I love when he shares this, is like the most alive moments of your life are when you were uncertain, probably. You know, I think about all our travels and like crazy places where we like didn't feel safe, or like just crazy moments, like it's not like safe, but just like where we didn't know, when you're talking about the horizon, you don't know what's coming next, but you know where you are now, and it's so alive because you were creating in the moment. You're not consuming a story that was given to you by others and like living a life that was given to you by others. It's just like a totally false narrative. You are creating your life in the moment, and that's what doing this is. It's burning the boats on the story. It's burning the boats on the matrix. It's deciding like, I'm going to create my life from here. And it's the most alive feeling you can have.
The ways that we've outsourced well-being and security and joy and support and all, it's the only conspiracy is that you are not God, or that you are not part of God, or that you don't have that vast power available to you. It's probably the right way to put it. That's the only conspiracy. That's the biggest one. That's the biggest lie. And so putting your security on a boss or a job or a parent or a partner or anything other than that is inviting discomfort, is basically robbing you of joy, is putting you in a position of dependency, and is placing and alone. And so really what this is about is knowing that when you're aligned, you're fully supported. Like, that is security, to be aligned, to really embrace everything that all the unknowns that we're taught to be fearful of. To actually embrace those is just part of the adventure. But to know that when you're aligned and you feel good, you feel connected, you feel in the zone, you feel in the flow, that's higher self saying, we got you. And here's the other thing, which is that even when you're not aligned, as I've found many times, I'm still supported. Like, the whole thing that you've got to kind of outsource security or well-being or anything outside yourself is completely insane. It's not true. It does not have to be that way. It also doesn't work. I'll tell you this. We should probably wrap up. I'll tell the story of of our friend back in New York.
Yeah.
This guy, beautiful man, love him dearly. Gave his life to a job. He didn't really like that job, you know. It was an okay job, paid him well, it was responsibility, he felt of service. There were some good things to it, but it wasn't really who he was. He worked that job for 40 plus years and was about to retire literally like within a week. He retired, and because he hadn't been feeling so well, he went in to have some surgery done so that he could embrace retirement and do the things he'd always wanted to do. You know, the fantasy of what retirement is. You know, you're 65 or 70 years old. Now I get to live my life, which is fucking crazy.
Fucking crazy slavery.
It makes me so upset.
Yeah.
He went in for this surgery, this beautiful man, and while he was under anesthesia, had 3 minor strokes in his optic nerve, came out blind, and now is fully dependent on other people and is still a joyful, wonderful, serviceable man. But that is not what he signed up for. That is not what he signed up for at all. And he's come to being accepting of it. He loves his life. I mean, he's a very, very wise person, but that's not what he signed up for. That is not what he signed up for.
It's not an uncommon story.
It's not uncommon.
Like I have a very similar situation. Like a woman I worked with for many years who gave her life to government service. Like, oh my God, her entire life. She talked about her retirement all the time. She wanted to cruise the world. And like right before she was going to retire, she went to the doctor, had some rare blood disease and died in a week. It's like the most crazy thing I've ever seen, you know? So it's like, just don't put off living.
Don't do it. Burn the boats.
You know?
Like whatever that thing is right in front of you, deal with it. Deal with it. It's not going away. And if you don't deal with it and try to deal with it by kind of playing around on the periphery, it's coming back. It's not going away. You're creating that in order to transcend it, in order to get beyond it. So our advice:
listen to the contrast and let it go.
We're going to create this kind of opportunity for some people in about a week or so. Stay tuned. We'll talk more about that on any of our channels. If you're connected there, we'll be talking more about it. If you have any questions, feel free to post them below this video. And we're so excited.
It's the best thing we ever did, burning the boats. It opened up a vast
we would not
life
be here.
For us.
We
we wouldn't be here in Costa Rica, but opened up a vast creative canvas for us to paint our life instead of living the structures that had not been serving us for years.
Yeah.
So we're excited to do this with others. Like this is what we're excited about.
Yeah. Seeing people go for it and really embrace their calling and jump into their theme with both feet and really take back the power they've given away is like, that's definitely why we're here. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Wonderful to talk about this. Hope you got something out of it. Any questions or anything, post them below. We'll respond.
Bye.
Bye.